Fox News interview. It is quite a night. That does it for our show. We'll be back at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, but keep it locked as our special coverage continues. Hardball with Chris Matthews is up next.
Hell in Helsinki. Let's play Hardball. Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews in San Francisco. Tonight, the alarming scenes out of Helsinki are reverberating around the country and the world. Just 3 days after the special counsel indicted a dozen Russian state officials for hacking the 2016 election, President Trump is making it clear he's willing to believe Russian leader Vladimir Putin over the law enforcement institutions of his own country. After spending over 2 hours alone with Putin, President Trump today stood alongside the Russian autocrat and publicly challenged the conclusion of the U.S. intelligence community that Russia attacked our election in 2016. It was a shocking display of surrender, unlike anything we've seen from an American president.
Just now, President Putin denied having anything to do with the election interference in 2016. Every U.S. intelligence agency has concluded that Russia did. My first question for you, sir, is who do you believe?
Let me just say that we have two thoughts. You have groups that are wondering why the FBI never took the server. I want to know, where is the server and what is the server saying? With that being said, all I can do is ask the question. My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be. So I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
So President Trump also said he discussed the allegations of collusion with the very person he's accused of colluding with. In fact, we heard both Trump and Putin today deny that they colluded with each other during the election.
The main thing, and we discussed this also, is zero collusion, and it has had a negative impact upon the relationship of the two largest nuclear powers in the world. But just to say it one time again, and I say it all the time, there was no collusion. I didn't know the president. There was nobody to collude with.
We should be guided by facts. Could you name a single fact that would definitively prove the collusion? This is utter nonsense. Just like the president recently mentioned.
In another stunning move, President Trump suggested federal investigators should collaborate with the foreign adversary, the Russians, with their investigating. Trump spoke approvingly of Putin's proposal to let the special counsel Mueller witness Russian questioning of defendants in Russia if the United States allowed Russian officials to do the same here.
We can actually permit official representatives of the United States, including the members of this very commission headed by Mr. Mueller. We can let them into the country and they will be present to this questioning. But in this case, there's another condition. This kind of effort should be a mutual one. Then we would expect that the Americans would reciprocate and they would question officials, including the officers of law enforcement and intelligence services of the United States, whom we believe who have something to do with illegal actions on the territory of Russia.
And what he did is an incredible offer. He offered to have the people working on the case come and work with their investigators with respect to the 12 people. I think that's an incredible offer.
Joining me right now is Governor John Kasich of Ohio. Governor, what do you make of what you saw today in Helsinki?
Chris, unbelievable, right? I mean, so sad. I did some interviews earlier, and look, you and I come from the same stock, and we've never seen an American president do this, stand on a stage with a Russian, former KGB, and kind of compare our intelligence community
to the Russians. And look, all this has been said. It's a sad day. Chris, you know, the one thing that I kind of, as I sit here and reflect and listen to all this, this is not a time for Democrats and Republicans to start, you know, I told you so, or any of those other things. This is a time for Republicans and Democrats to adopt a traditional model, which is the strong America, belief in our allies, the critical importance of the Western ethic. And perhaps there's some things that Congress can begin to do. Perhaps Republicans who now are starting to become critical, you know, that they begin to speak out, that they begin to take control. I was in Washington last week talking about my great concern about the fraying of the relationship, the G7, NATO, the fact that these things have gone very poorly. Nobody said anything about it. And, you know, when you don't say something about the G7 and then you head to NATO, and that was a bumbled meeting as well, nobody said anything. So where's the surprise here that he would go and ad-lib all this? It's just a sad day for a country. And I'll bet they're trying to figure out how to put the toothpaste back in the tube. But I just hope the damage can be repaired.
Governor, what's in it for the president politically? I mean, he's a politician, you're a politician, but it's hard for me to see the win here. Why does he want to look like he's surrendering to Putin's worldview, to Putin's word, taking him at his word when he's a KGB professional intelligence officer of the worst kind who knows how to lie right to your face? Why is he saying, I believe the guy, or I believe him as much as I believe my director of national intelligence, Dan Coates? Why would he say, what do you say about that? How do you get him to stop doing that?
Chris, I don't know. Maybe it's because people around him have not spoken directly to him. You know, there's a problem with all leaders, CEOs, you know, all big-time leaders, that there's a sense that underlings cannot talk honestly to a leader. And, you know about 13 days when Kennedy said they had groupthink, when everybody thought the same, and how dangerous that is. Nobody is intervening. No one is saying enough is enough. And so I don't understand it, Chris. I can't figure out why they didn't step up and correct some of the things that he's doing. You don't do it in public. You do it in private. It's pretty astounding, and we hear it across the board. Here's the real interesting question. What is the Republican base going to say? Now, we had a county chairman here in Ohio in a little township or a county called Belmont County who said today, I've had enough, and he's resigned. But where's the base going to be? Are people just going to look the other way? Because now we're talking about critical issues that affect the future of our country and the future of the Western Alliance.
Well, here's a hero for you. Senator John McCain had very strong words for the president after what happened in Helsinki today. Quote, today's press conference in Helsinki, this is John McCain, was one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president in memory. The damage inflicted by President Trump's naivete, egotism, false equivalence, and sympathy for autocrats is difficult to calculate. But it is clear that the summit in Helsinki was a tragic mistake. Your thoughts on that, on John McCain?
Well, I mean, Chris, you know, you and I love John McCain. We don't care what party he's in. It's sad that his voice has been somewhat muted. That means others have to speak up. And, you know, sometimes you got to start, alone. You know, I was at the press club last week talking about my concerns. I've been doing it now for almost 2 years, right? As you know, I didn't go to the convention. I didn't endorse because I was worried about these kinds of things happening. I don't want to be in a position to say I saw this, because I was hoping that none of this was going to happen. All I'm asking for are my colleagues to begin to stand up and be heard on trade, on NATO, more than just passing some non-binding resolution. Start taking some action, because it's our country and the sacrifices that so many people have made to preserve the liberty and the spirit of America.
Well, let's talk about that, because the Republicans, and I am impressed by almost all of them, from Charlie Dent to John McCain to Jeff Flake, all across the country. But the only voices are those who are not going to face Republican voters again, in all likelihood. Will you face the Republican voters and run for president against Trump?
I don't know, Chris. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know where the base is. I don't want to be in an election I can't win. I don't know. All of my options are on the table. They remain on the table. But what's important, Chris, is that we start getting some Republicans to emerge. There just can't be a few of us. There has to be a greater group who begins to assert themselves because, as we know, foreign policy, love of our country, at its best,